What are some of the most popular forklift attachments? In this episode of Buying Bigger Better Academy, we're going to look at which attachments you may want to consider to make the most of your forklift equipment. Howdy friends, and welcome to another episode of Buying Bigger Better Academy, the series from My Little Salesman designed to help you make the very best heavy-duty equipment buying decisions for your particular needs and budget. This episode is a bit of a continuation of our last episode, which was on identifying the best forklift for your particular needs and environment. We dropped a link to that one in the description of this episode in case you're interested. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the tools designed to help you get the most out of your forklift attachments. Before we get started, remember that there's never any need to take any notes, as we've included a written version of this guide in the description below. Let's get started. When most folks think of forklifts, they're likely envisioning small vehicles in a warehouse somewhere, busy lifting and moving pallets with two sets of forks. While this tends to be the happy spot for many forklift models, this is just a fraction of their capabilities. In this episode, we're going to explore the untapped potential in your forklift with the right forklift attachments. Before we can do that, we need to understand how differing attachments impact forklift safety on the job. You may be wondering, what do I need to know about the safety of forklift attachments? Firstly, let's look at how attachments impact forklift balance. Rated capacity versus net capacity. The net capacity, also known as the payload capacity, is a lifting capacity that also takes the weight of any modifications or attachments into consideration. On the other hand, the rated capacity is typically the capacity listed on your forklift's data plate. It is crucial to keep these figures in mind because some attachments can be quite heavy and greatly impact how much weight you can safely lift and move with your forklift. Failure to account for the weight and balance of a forklift attachment can be dangerous. Forklift balance. Even when you're not carrying items, forklift attachments impact the balance of any forklift when attached. While crucial to most forklift needs, attachments will always make forklifts less stable simply because you're putting additional weight on the fulcrum point of the equipment, the other side of the teeter-totter, if you will. For this reason, anytime your forklift is outfitted with an attachment, it is important to drive and operate it as though you're carrying a load. Slower speeds, careful corners, etc. Because technically you are. Forklift specifications. Whenever you're in doubt about the balance, weight capacity, or fit of any forklift attachment, always consult the specifications for forklift attachments provided by the manufacturer of your model of forklift. Thanks to the internet, downloading the necessary manuals and specifications has never been easier. Let's take a look at some of the most commonly used forklift attachments. Fork extension attachments. Only second behind the forks themselves, fork extensions are perhaps the most common attachments found on forklift trucks. Fork extensions are sleeve-like attachments that allow for a longer distribution of support for longer or more awkward-shaped loads. When shopping for fork extensions, measure the thickness and width of your forklift's existing forks, also known as the parent fork arm, to ensure a good fit. Make sure that the forks do not extend more than 66% of the length to avoid imbalanced loads, or putting too much weight on the other side of the metaphorical teeter-totter. Again, always consult your forklift manufacturer's specifications for forklift extensions. Side shifter forklift attachments. Do you need to retrieve or load a pallet from a space that won't allow for head-on approach to a shelf or truck? A side shifter forklift attachment can help. Whereas many forklift attachments attach to the existing fork, a side shift attachment allows the forks themselves to move right or left, controlled from the operator's seat. While useful, operators need to account for the slight weight imbalance when loading or unloading, bringing the load to the forklift's closest center of gravity when transporting it to avoid tipping. Rotator forklift attachments. As the name suggests, rotator or rotary forklift attachments allow the operator to tilt their loads 180 or even 360 degrees. These attachments are incredibly useful for rotating loads for precise placement or efficient dumping. Push-pull forklift attachments. Push-pull attachments load non-palleted cargo by being able to slip beneath the loads by accessing a lip on the plastic or cardboard slip sheets that the load sits upon. To unload, the operator activates a pushing carriage to slide the load into position. Push-pull forklift attachments are most frequently used in food processing and other such warehouse sites. Multiple load handler forklift attachments. Multiple load handler forklift attachments, also known as double load handler attachments, enable forklift operators to double or even triple the load carrying capacity of their forklift in a single trip. They do this by providing an extra row of forks, typically situated side by side. This double row of forks allows a forklift operator to load 2 or more pallets simultaneously and transport them in a single trip. Multiple load handler forklift attachments are commonly utilized in food and beverage handling applications where load weights may not be as heavy. While incredibly useful, increased safety precautions should be taken when transporting these larger loads. Paper roll clamp forklift attachments. Paper roll clamp attachments are used to load and transport immense rolls of paper without as much risk of damaging said loads. These clamps allow forklift operators to grasp and transport paper rolls that do not necessarily fit on pallets. Flat surface clamp forklift attachments. Very similar to paper roll clamp attachments, flat surface clamp forklift attachments are useful in moving items with flat surfaces, such as washing machines, clothing dryers, stoves, refrigerators, and other appliances. Basket and cage forklift attachments. Basket or cage extension attachments for forklifts are used to lift secured personnel to various heights, typically to access certain areas for maintenance or repairs. Basket or cage attachments vary in size and configuration depending on how many secured personnel members need to be lifted. They typically contain a steel welded frame as well as non-slip decking material on their standing surfaces. Fork positioner attachments. Fork positioner attachments are especially useful in their ability to allow a forklift operator to adjust the width of their fork spread from their control cluster using hydraulics. This allows operators to more efficiently move a variety of pallet sizes without having to manually adjust fork attachments. Buying new or used forklift attachments. This rundown is just scratching the surface of the various forklift attachments on the market. If you're ready to pull the trigger on a new or used forklift attachment, feel free to look for a nearby forklift dealership to find an array of attachments for sale or rent. These dealerships may also provide used forklift attachments for sale, but you may find some great deals on used attachments by searching through online heavy equipment marketplace listing services. And on that note, we here at My Little Salesman have aimed to make this process as painless as possible. If you're in the market for new or used forklift attachments for sale, you're invited to look through the listings offered through My Little Salesman, the heavy equipment marketplace that has brought buyers and sellers of heavy equipment together since 1958. Use the search filtering features to find heavy equipment listings from sellers all over the world, as well as in your neck of the woods. Simply go to mylittlesalesman.com to get started. Well, that about does it for this episode of Buying Bigger, Better Academy from My Little Salesman. If this episode provided some value for you, we'd appreciate a like to tell the algorithm we're doing a decent enough job. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to receive more episodes like this one. Until next time, I've been Ken, and we'll see you next time.